Welcome to the Scene Snob interviews with your host, Mick Manhattan. Please like and subscribe to our channel and follow us at the Scene Snob.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Scene Snob interviews. And today I am joined by veteran producer, writer, director, actor. The man has done so much, and we're here to talk about his career and his new movie, Jiu Jitsu, which stars Elaine Moussi, Nic Cage, Tony Jaa, Frank Grillo, and so many more. It's a very cool warrior tale mixed with aliens, martial arts, and the whole nine. And we're going to talk about that today. Thank you for coming on the show, Dimitri Logothetis. I'm sorry. My apologies about that, but thank you for coming on. I'm really excited about this. I saw Jiu Jitsu last week, and I loved it.
Oh, good. That's terrific. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I'm actually a big fan of your movies. Dating back, Slaughterhouse Rock, of course, Body Shot, like the whole nine. I'm very much I like the horror. I like martial arts films and such. And your Kickboxer movies are amazing.
Oh, terrific. Thank you again.
So thank you again. Thank you for coming on the show. I want to talk to you a little bit. I mean, you've been in the industry for so long. You've even worked in the beginning with Martin Scorsese and so many other big names since then. I was just kind of wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that coming up in the industry and how you got started and such.
Well, I mean, I started out as an actor, and I was in my teens at the time. I had an opportunity to I was majoring in business school in junior college. And so my family wanted me to go to business, and I had an opportunity to either pick a speech class or an acting class. So I'd never done it before. So I chose the acting class. And then I was asked to, take part in some plays. And then I got an agent, and suddenly I started doing commercials and some movies of the week. And then I got a part in New York, that Martin Scorsese was directing with Robert De Niro and Liza Minnelli. And I learned an awful lot watching him work. And he's the one that actually recommended that I go to film school, because film school, I didn't know anything about film school. And he saw that I was writing a short story, and he looked at it because I was writing it for class. And he said that he thought I was a pretty good storyteller. So he said I should go to film school. So that was how I moved into filmmaking, at the chagrin of my parents, because of course they much preferred that I pursue a real job.
Yeah, that's so many parents, I think, feel that same way until like your career taking off and doing so much. Like it's they I don't think filmmakers who are getting into the industry, the parents kind of understand right off the bat, like even mine included, that getting into it, they're just kind of like, what are you going to do until they see what you're doing?
Right.
And that's
probably right.
Yeah, but I mean that's like anything in life. I feel like you gotta kind of prove yourself until you get there, and then once you're there, I mean that's kind of its own reward.
Right.
So now you worked on a great documentary. I'm a big boxing fan, so I wanted to kind of talk to you about this a little bit. Champions Forever, and I mean Ali, Foreman, Larry Holmes was in there. Like you talked to a lot of the champions. When you directed that, going in, what was for anybody who hasn't watched it anyway, one of the best boxing documentaries of all time. For you, what was that like, stepping in and talking to these Goliaths in sports?
Well, I was not a boxing fanatic, but I was a big fan of Muhammad Ali's for a number of reasons. Boxing, of course, being one of them. He was a phenomenal athlete, but in addition to that, he was a pretty phenomenal human being. And we were in Cannes with my partners at the time. We were talking about another movie, and we were working on another film that a company was selling for us. And we all were kicking around. We had a few beers, and we said, wouldn't it be neat if you could get all of these world champion boxers in one room? Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Larry Holmes, and Ken Norton. And instead of having the average sports commentator talk about their careers. Let's have them talk about their careers, and let's have them trade stories back and forth. And then I would intercut a lot of the key moments that they were talking about with fight footage. But really, it was more about an inspirational piece and listening to, almost all of them started with nothing. They had no money. And a lot of them were facing some pretty dire circumstances in their lives. And pretty much sports, and boxing particularly, is what got them out of it. I was fortunate enough to spend about 2 weeks with Muhammad Ali up at his ranch in Michigan City. And I was able to spend some real quality time with him. And, there's some things that people don't know about Ali, but, one of the things was the fact that he actually went to Saddam Hussein and sat with Saddam Hussein when he had our American hostages, and he held our American hostages. And he went against the State Department's wishes, and he sat with Saddam Hussein and asked him to release the hostages because Ali was he's viewed in the Muslim community as a prophet. He was probably one of the most known men at the time in terms of his name next to Jesus, okay? And so even though the threat of death and the threat of him becoming another hostage was in front of him, he decided to go anyway because it was the right thing to do. So those are the kind of things I think that defines a man. And if you talk to him, which I got a chance to do and spend some quality time with him, as I said, he's just a regular guy, and he just does these simple things that are just the right thing to do. He didn't want to go into the Vietnam War, and he was opposed to shooting and killing people. And he almost ruined his career. He was at the top of his career at the time, and they even said to him, "Look, you're not going to have to do anything. You're not going to have to go to war yourself. You can be a spokesperson for us. You could be a celebrity, and so on and so forth." And he said, "But I would still be advocating the Vietnam War, and I'd be advocating being at war." And he said, "I just can't do it." So in addition to being an incredible athlete and propelling the sport of boxing as a black man, okay, and creating this incredible gate that people started to pay him, and he opened the door for a lot of other super athletes, I believe. He did some significant things that leave you in awe. George Foreman was re-kicking off his career at the time. And I got a chance to talk to George, and he went broke. And he said he had to go back to work because he'd put all his money in a boys' club. He wanted to give back, and he was a minister. And so he was, because he got his break the same way. He went into the Boys and Girls Club that, I think it was the Get Start program that Lyndon Johnson had just launched. And he said it got him off the streets, and it gave him the ability to, end up going, and I think he went to the Olympics and won Golden Gloves. So, those are all inspirational tales. And I ended up spending some real wonderful time with these guys. And so I feel very fortunate that happened for me in my career at that time.
Yeah, and it really is. I mean, people should definitely check it. If you haven't seen it, it's from 1989. It's still one of the best boxing documentaries out. And my dad was a big fan of it, and I watched it with him a lot. So, because we were big boxing fans growing up. And, of course, Ali and Foreman. I think Foreman was his favorite of all time. He always talked about Foreman. So, that was a big one. But, so going from that, though, and you've worked in every genre. And you've done some really cool stuff in all the genres. But specifically lately, you've been working more in the martial arts action genres. And, you kicked off a few years ago the remake of the Kickboxer franchise, which, as much as I love the original Kickboxer franchise and always go back to it, you've really taken the story to a next level. And I appreciate it. And I really like what you're doing with the Kurt Sloan character.
Oh, well, thank you.
So for that, and now with jujitsu, is martial arts in action movies something that you kind of want to stick with right now that you're working on, or?
Well, I've always liked action, and I did a lot of action directing in television, and so I find that martial arts, and I was a martial artist myself, and I studied in two styles, Tang Sudo and Kempo, from some wonderful masters when I was in my early 20s. And I think that martial arts is the real human superhero movie, okay? Because it's always based on a true martial artist, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and a true athlete, right? Steven Seagal, Bruce Lee, Donnie Yen, Jackie Chan, and so on, okay? And with us, I had to go there, and I starred Alon Musi, who is a 6th-degree jiu-jitsu master, okay? Here's a man who weighs 205 pounds, and he can do a front aerial, a back aerial. You see some of the live stunts and the one-ers that I pull off in these films. And I think somehow the little boy and little girl in all of us, hopefully, will watch the film, and at some point they'll say to themselves, wait a minute, this isn't an Avengers movie. This isn't an actor who just went ahead and is suited up and they're going ahead and doing a bunch of special effects around them. My guys are actually pulling off all this stuff. And so hopefully you'll see and you'll say to yourself, wow, if I actually study like that, if I actually bear down and spend the time to learn all that, I too could perhaps become as skillful as these fellas. So, you have to come up with a storyline to sort of hang the martial arts film, and it's always the same storyline. It's always about a bully, basically, whether it's a spaceman or whether it's just a guy you can't beat, who's gigantic. And then it's about somebody who's skillful and who beats him with his skill and his brains. And hopefully it's inspirational. I mean, it's about loyalty. It's about doing the right thing. It's about trust. It's about respect. And I think, that's not a bad genre to be in.
No, and one thing I really enjoyed about jiu-jitsu too is the team feeling, because they have to work as a team. They have this whole plan. And you don't get that a lot in martial arts movies. Like you have some like Best of the Best, things like that, but you really pulled it together here. And these warriors that come together, it feels like a really fun team, like in terms of the action that they put out and their togetherness.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, I was fortunate enough to get, Alon Musi and, of course, Tony Jaa, who's just an exceptional martial artist, and Juju Chan, who starred in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and then, of course, Nic Cage, who I believe is the heart of the story, because he's the one that lays out the story, and he's the one that sells this fantastic science fiction story.
Mm-hmm.
People that are criticizing the film who are jiu-jitsu guys, Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's just a fun film. Brazilian jiu-jitsu has been around for about 30 or 40 years, and it was brought by the Gracies. It's basically what the entire UFC is based around, and they did a wonderful job bringing it to the forefront. But jiu-jitsu itself has been around for a few thousand years. If you do any kind of research on it, you'll find out that it's really hard to pinpoint its origin. And with that in mind, perhaps it came from Japan, perhaps it came from South Korea. Unlike Kung Fu and karate, it's very, very difficult to pinpoint jiu-jitsu's origin. And therefore, it was a perfect martial art to put in the middle of this story. And other than that, I mean, you just got to go with it. You got to get on the ride and have fun and enjoy yourself and just kick back.
Yeah, and that actually makes perfect sense with the storyline. And not to give too much away because I want people to see it. with how long this adversary, the alien being, has been coming. Yeah, that makes sense. With like could be thousands of years, so that's why it would be passed along from warrior to warrior. I like that. It kind of gives it that mythical vibe of within the movie. I'm glad you put it that way, because like that adds a whole new layer for me.
Oh, good.
So yeah, with that, I had read that originally you wanted Bruce Willis for the role of Wiley, and then Nic Cage had stepped in because of scheduling conflicts.
Right. I mean, we were thinking about Bruce, and we talked to him, and then the movie was delayed. And then Nick went on to do, Bruce went on to do something else. And we were fortunate enough to land Nic Cage, because, I mean, he was one of my first choices at the very, very beginning of this. And again, I was just so thrilled to work with him because he's a consummate professional. He embraces genre. He digs into a character. He happens to have been trained in Jiu Jitsu. And so I just think he brings this whole other element to it that's not only sells the story, but it's a lot of fun. He's very entertaining. Oh,
right from the moment he comes on the screen, absolutely. I love him, and he was in my favorite movie of 2018, which was Mandy. The guy, I don't think I've seen a movie that he's been in that I didn't really like. Like, I enjoy his performance at least, and everything. So for me, kind of with Nicolas Cage in there, and the style he chose, or the to have how to play Wiley. I mean, I couldn't, and then nothing against Bruce Willis being an amazing actor, but like I when I read that, I was imagining it. And I'm like, I just don't think this character would have been the same without Nic Cage in the role, if that makes sense to you.
He defined a wonderful role for us, and again, he's just a consummate artist. So I was thrilled to have worked with him.
So with kind of going forward now after jiu-jitsu, and how did you enjoy, because you have been working action, you have been working martial arts, but this is like really the first superhero comic book type of vibe you had to one of your movies, especially with the drawing, animations in it and such. Is that something you want to revisit, whether it be with jiu-jitsu or something else?
Well, I mean, I wrote a comic book with my writing partner, Jim McGrath, specifically so we could see the story. He thought I was crazy, and he's probably not wrong, but I still wanted to get a comic book written so we could see it. It worked as a visual storyboard. I mean, I grew up on comic books. I love comic books. And so once we finished the comic book and we were able to see it and read it, I thought this would be really cool as a movie. So then we went right on to script.
Oh, awesome. Okay. And it worked. So I did also read you are in the process of remaking one of my favorites, The Best of Times, starring Kurt Russell and Rob Williams.
Yeah, we're working on a script right now. And of course, COVID slowed us all down.
Yeah.
But that's one of the projects that I'm about to relaunch soon, in addition to All of Me, which was a project that the company that I'm owner of, Kings Road Entertainment, had, and it was starring Steve Martin and Lily Tomlin. It was a big comedy. So we're working on that, and so just keep pushing everything forward.
Absolutely. And are you going to still, if I can ask while you're in the writing process, are you still sticking with the football backdrop to it, or would you be changing it up at all with two different?
I'm actually we're pursuing basketball.
Oh, okay. Oh, that'd be awesome.
We're actually thinking about setting it as in basketball with the same theme. So be the same sort of old guys screwed up a game when they were in high school, and they want to do a redo so that they can regain their honor, so to speak. So
yeah, and if anybody hasn't watched that movie, it is a really funny movie. Rob Williams and Kurt Russell are both fantastic in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot of independent filmmakers come on, especially young emerging filmmakers, and I was wondering if there's any advice you would give being in a career as long as you have that you could give to them about like getting in and just how to go about things, especially with writing and directing and producing.
Well, I mean, you've heard this a lot. It's a cliche, but it's true. Don't give up on your dreams. I mean, filmmaking is storytelling, and don't get yourself hung up on the technology and whether the technology's there and whether you're going to, figure out all the technology, because it changes so fast. But at the end of the day, it's storytelling. And if you can tell a really good story that's compelling and it's interesting, and hopefully what's interesting to you is interesting to the masses. I'm a filmmaker that likes to make stuff that people like to watch around the world. And so I'm not a niche filmmaker. There are niche filmmakers and I applaud them. But, don't lose hope. There's a lot of naysayers out there, and the naysayers will always tell you that you can't do something. And you should probably gravitate to the people that will tell you that you can. So I'm here to tell you that if this is something that you really want to pursue, don't give up. Pursue it.
That is always fantastic advice, and to hear that from established filmmakers is always a big help, I think, and I appreciate that. I like to kind of end things on sort of a fun note, and so I'm going to ask you. Said you're a comic book fan. I want to ask you some of your favorite either comic book characters or comic books that you've read.
Well, I mean, look, there's a big debate, as you know, that there's only really one superhero, right? And that superhero at the end of the day is Superman. And a lot of people will argue that point, but he's a true superhero. Okay. And Batman is created. A number of the X-Men are created, but the original superhero for me has always been Superman. And based on his mythology, he is a true superhero. So that's what I would tell you. I mean, I grew up with a lot of buddies of mine when I was, 7, 8, 9 years old. And I sat there and we would take these comic books and we would draw our own characters around them. So Superman was my favorite.
That's awesome. And you got to work with the Superman and Nic Cage. He's getting there to play Superman in Death of Superman movie back in the day. So did he give you any fun tidbits about getting ready for that?
We talked about all kinds of stuff. He's one of those, again, he's a consummate artist, and he's one of the only people I've ever met that has seen almost every obscure film that I've seen. So he would bring up a movie and I'd bring up a movie, and both of us would look at each other and we'd go, "Oh yeah, I saw that. I remember that." Talking about foreign films. And nice. I mean, he's just a lot of fun to talk to. And it's wonderful to be around a true artist. So I was very fortunate that way.
That is awesome. And I love Jiu Jitsu. It's such a fun, action-packed martial arts film. And I thank you for coming on today. And everybody, go check it out. It's in theaters and it's on VOD now. So there is no excuse not to watch it. Dimitri, again, thank you so much. I look forward to everything you're doing. Your movies are fantastic. And just thank you for being on. And your advice. This has been wonderful.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, and I'm watching everything you put out, and I'm a big advocate for jiu-jitsu. And everybody, this has been the Scene Snob Interviews. Check us out on thescenesnobs.com, and thanks again.
All right, bye-bye.
Take care, sir.